Is Enshrouded better than Valheim? Well, after 150 hours in Enshrouded, there's plenty to talk about, so let's get to it. Now, Enshrouded is a survival, story-driven adventure game, and in many aspects it is very similar to Valheim. It's set in the realm of Embervale, where players, as the last hope of an ancient civilization known as the Flameborn, must survive and push back the Shroud, which is a creeping blight that absorbs and mutates all life that it encounters. Now, the game offers co-op gameplay for up to 16 players and features a deep open skill tree to master, as well as powerful weapons, spells and armor, and I believe, like Valheim, it has the potential to be one of the best survival games. Now, after watching the initial trailer for Enshrouded, I saw the incredible build mechanics and terrain deformation, and I felt it was almost too good to be true, but after jumping into the game for the first time, I was pleasantly surprised. Enshrouded has a handcrafted world, allowing for beautiful visuals, the drawback being that there's no procedural generation to allow you to start the game on a different map, which lessens replay value. At least that is one of the major concerns for me. But I quickly found myself drawn into the game, wanting to unlock each craftsman and pursuing their quests deeper into the game. From the get-go, I was able to explore the world, soft-locked only by the deadly red fog that surrounds the area, forcing you to do the initial quests and play about with the mechanics, such as combat and exploration, until you strengthen your altar's flame. And on the topic of exploration, despite the handcrafted map, the world is surprisingly large, with us able to play across roughly 1/3 of the map during the early access release, boasting plenty of resources to find and play about with. Now, these resources are key, as grabbing them unlocks their associated recipes, much like it's done in Valheim. You'll also find yourself focusing on quest lines for the various craftsmen that you'll find, as they'll unlock later tier items, food and equipment. Now, with it being a story-driven adventure game, the quests do offer plenty of lore around the premise of the story. It's not as survival-focused as I had first hoped, and with death being forgiving for all players, it makes it perfect for beginners to the genre. But this has actually led me to wanting something a little bit more hardcore, hence why I'll be trying an Iron Man-inspired Let's Play series of Enshrouded shortly. Enshrouded, as with many survival games, has a leveling system based on experience points. These can be received for mining, combat, exploration, quests, and even the occasional experience scroll, and upon leveling up, you're given skill points. These can be spent on attributes and skills, allowing you to play the game how you want to play. Personally though, I find the leveling system just a little slow, and it's very general. I'd rather personally focus on leveling up different skills that I use in order to become more proficient in that skill, such as in Valheim. However, this does allow Enshrouded to be played a little bit more freely, as these skill point allocations can be reset at an altar in return for a few resources. That way you can change your character's role quickly and easily. This system also works really well in multiplayer, because each player can focus on a different skill tree, whether that's a dedicated healer, another an assassin, and one a tank. And having played a fair bit of time in multiplayer, I've had a lot of fun and can only imagine it being better with 16 players in the game at once. Speaking of which, trying to host a game for 16 players can be pretty resource intensive on your PC. This is where dedicated servers come in. They are exclusive high-performance computing solutions, making them perfect for running the ultimate gaming adventure with friends in Enshrouded, as well as many other games actually. And we are partnered with Low.ms, which means you can get 20% off your first month by using the code Totalxclipse at the checkout. And you'll also be supporting the channel, allowing me to continue creating content like this. The link is in the description below. Anyway, now back to Enshrouded. When it comes to Enshrouded, you'll find yourself in combat regularly, and personally I find the combat much more fluid in comparison to Valheim, though I do feel we need a larger larger variety of enemies, and they need a smarter AI because they sometimes struggle pathing to you, making it really easy to cheese tougher enemies. Thankfully, even if you prefer fighting them face to face, there isn't too harsh a punishment with death. Most items in your backpack will be left at your death marker to collect with everything else kept on you, such as armor and any items in your hotbar, so you can quickly return without issue. The rarer the weapon, the more bonuses it can be enhanced with at the cost of runes, which are gained from salvaging lesser weapons. These bonuses can make a weapon do more damage or give the weapon a better critical hit chance. This also gives the team plenty of opportunities to add special bonuses to weapons and perhaps even armor as the game is further updated. But by far my favorite feature in the game is the build system. It's pretty extensive, allowing you to expand and sculpt your outposts with artistically detailed houses, gigantic castles, and productive farms. What makes the system so great is that it's suitable for any type of player. Once you've unlocked the recipes for different build blocks, you can use prefab build pieces to build the perfect house, easily snapping pieces together. This is made simple for anyone to do thanks to the prefabricated pieces, and I go into detail on this in my ultimate build guide, which I'll link in the description below. But on top of this, we have the ability to place blocks, one voxel at a time, allowing a huge amount of potential when it comes to decorating your world, allowing building experts to build anything they envision, and I think a lot of people will be playing about with this in the future. I am disappointed though that you cannot rotate off the world grid for your builds, which means more often than not buildings will have straight edges facing one of the four directions, north, south, east or west. Now I think with more rotations there would be a lot more scope to play about with. However, I am very happy with the system and I am excited to experiment more with it. Valheim in comparison has an incredible build system itself, but one that is based on a stability system and with few prefab parts, making it more difficult for newer players to get to grips with. Enshrouded also lets you litter your house with furniture, though you cannot use them. They do offer a comfort buff like we have in Valheim, which increases the stamina and stamina regen, making it important to build a cozy house. Now, similarly to Valheim, Enshrouded also has a voxel-based terrain system, but it takes it to a whole new level, allowing you to sculpt the world as you see fit, though it'll only save the changes if it's within your outpost's borders. But this does mean that you can dig out tunnels and caves, allowing for potentially mind-blowing dwarven-inspired fortresses or hobbit houses, something that was very limited in Valheim and another string to Enshrouded's bow. Now with the game in early access, the devs are currently waiting on feedback to add features to the game. One that I love the idea of is base raids from enemy creatures, similar to Valheim, making it important to consider what resources you use when building based on the item's durability. Now along with the building and the terrain system, we also have farming in Enshrouded, allowing you to grow everything that you need for food and potions. Similarly with Valheim, food and potions are incredibly beneficial in Enshrouded, offering buffs that will make your life outside the outpost much easier. Personally, I love the system and it's one that's easy enough to pick up, but it does require work. Individually planting and harvesting crops makes it repetitive, especially when you need 100 flax and it can only be collected one press of the E button at a time. Different types of farm soil only increase the speed crops are grown, which actually hinders the player because you end up doing double the work for double the resources, and I feel that really the soil types should increase the crop yield rather than shorten the growth time, and I very much feel that we need a tool for seeding and also harvesting crops like a scythe, so that we can plant and harvest crops with a single click. Or at the very least, please just allow us the option to hold down E rather than spamming the button. One of the biggest differences between Valheim and Enshrouded's build system is that in Valheim you can build anywhere, whereas in Enshrouded you're limited to, at least for the time being, 8 altars. Now, outside of your main outpost, you'll find yourself relying on these altars and the ancient towers as teleportation between the various biomes. This does give you a lot of land to cover, which can be done with ease thanks to your glider and trusty grapple hook. And without an encumbered system, it doesn't matter how many resources that you harvest or where from, you can always teleport home, providing you're outside of the shroud. Overall, I'm very impressed with Enshrouded after a week, but it's important to acknowledge that no game is without its flaws. While the game has shown immense potential in various aspects, there are certain concerns and issues that need to be addressed. Firstly, we have had 1 or 2 crashes, which isn't really bad for 150 hours, but there's also moments where the frames seem to just drop a little. But this seems to have also been fixed over the past few hotfixes. There are also some multiplayer issues, such as traps not being visible, torches not lighting the darkness, nor being able to see the rake's area of effect radius, and one that's a little bit more serious is that the quests are bound to the save rather than the player, meaning new players can't do quests that have already been done, and the 5 craftsmen are shared across the whole save, which can be frustrating at times. I also feel that the game is too easy. I'd love some setting sliders to make the game more difficult, or even the ability to turn off game resets so that resources don't respawn, or chest loot for that matter. It just doesn't feel like you're trying to survive, and that is something that I really want in a survival game. And my final concern is the game being brought to early access. I've played and enjoyed a lot of early access games, and I understand that this can be really important to raise funds necessary to continue developing the game. But I'm also aware that some games can spend a long time in early access, and despite great success, perhaps for the case of Valheim, development has been slow, with them gearing up to their second large update in 2 years of early access, and I fear that Enshrouded may take a similar path, leading to a long road to 1.0. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we do need to measure our expectations, and that is something that concerns me. It's very easy to get hyped up about a game when it's first released. After 150 hours of immersing myself within the world of Enshrouded, it's time to reflect on whether it has lived up to that hype. Did it meet my expectations? Well, in many ways, yes. The extensive building system, the fluid feel of combat, the sheer scale of the world were all very impressive. However, there are elements where it still falls short, particularly the survival elements, certainly in contrast to Valheim. And then there's also the multiplayer issues which they have to overcome. Now, despite these shortcomings though, Enshrouded has a solid foundation with immense potential for growth. It's impossible to say it's better or worse than Valheim, because though there are similarities, they're incredibly different in their own right. They're both fantastic games in early access, with considerably different art styles, build mechanics and gameplay loops. Sure, they may appeal to the same audience, but they both itch a different itch for me, and I'm really excited to see where both their journeys takes us. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed my review, please hit the thumbs up and keep an eye out for more Enshrouded content. Thank you for watching, and as always, thanks goes to all of our amazing supporters on Patreon, most notably our Totalxclipse patron, Firefless, as well as our Lunas, the Calamity, Ben and Star, and our Blood Moon of the day, which today is the Viking Brit. Until next time, as always, ciao for now.